welcome to the Fireplace Podcast. This is episode 15, and today we've got an interview with Kieran and Lucy. Kieran and Lucy both attended the recent Fire in the Forest event. We're going to have a chat with them about their fire story, and we've also got Andy on the podcast. Hello, Andy.
Hello, good morning, folks.
And yeah, welcome to Kieran and Lucy. Do you want to give us a quick introduction, and then we'll get started?
Yeah, so we're husband and wife. We've been together for 8 years now-ish.
Yeah.
We embarked on fire about 5 years ago now, on our journey.
Great.
So I don't like to ask a lady's age and all that, but you guys are what, about 25?
I am 28.
And I'm
28.
26.
26 and 28. Okay. Wow.
That puts them about half our usual age, doesn't it, for interviewees, Andy?
Well, that's it. Do you need me to translate from your great age, Mike? Will you be able to relate to them?
Well, as long as they talk slowly, it should be okay.
So you guys, you've obviously got to this quite young, and compared to most people, that's given you a bit of a head start. So what's the background story? Have you always just been frugal naturally?
I think, yes, we have. For myself, I was always told, my granddad had he said it was his thirds principle. So you spent a third, you saved a third, and then you put a third somewhere else, like just, like you'd keep that for yourself. And I sort of used that all the way through my life, even with if he ever gave me money, that sort of thing. And then my mum and dad divorced when I was 10 or 11. And going from, the house that had my dad's income and it was quite nice to then go into a single parent, my mum sort of doing bits and bobs. So money wasn't tight, or it was, we didn't have a lot of money, but it wasn't really, really tight. But then in terms of the, stocks and shares and stuff, I had no knowledge in anything like that. I was always told the best way for investment and things like working, saving money, that sort of thing, was buy properties. The societal norms I didn't get on with. So things like expensive clothes or brand new trainers or that sort of thing, it didn't bother me. So I always saved a lot of money through that as well. So I always seemed to just have, a lot of savings.
That did kind of rub off on me, because I was kind of swept up by societal norms a little bit more in terms of buying the latest things and wearing expensive clothes and stuff like that. So that kind of helped us to save a bit more money, didn't it? But I was quite frugal in nature anyway. My dad I always said that he was good with money, so he always saved money and he always worked really hard, and I kind of had that drilled into me growing up, and to accrue a pot of money. But then that was always generally spent on big expenses like holidays and cars and things like that. So I always kind of knew how to save, but just not what to do with it.
Okay. Yeah. So pretty frugal and saving and live within your means, but then no idea of, well, what do we do with this spare money?
Yeah.
Yes. And Kieran, your granddad's example is interesting, of the sort of rule of thirds. So you use a third to buy stuff with and sort of do your normal things, and you save a third in a sort of savings account or something.
Yeah. So I was quite young at the time, sort of when he first started explaining it to me. So I was only maybe 7, 8 when he first started having these conversations. So it was, you spent a third, the second third you sort of you kept that around in case you needed to spend money, if something went wrong, almost kind of like a what if kind of money. And then the third went in the bank and went away kind of thing. And then kind of you'd the old school thing of you'd put it under your mattress, that kind of thing.
It's more keeping it out of reach,
sort of
putting it on a high shelf so you're not going to dip into it by accident. And I guess, Lucy, you had a similar thing where it was more about putting money aside for future expenses, like a sort of sinking fund.
Yeah, so it never really grew. It was always just like being used eventually, but the principles and the basics of saving and not spending too much was there.
I guess
Not
in
living
both
beyond your means, I
cases,
suppose.
yeah, I guess in both cases, you grew up with an idea that you buy things you can afford, and you don't borrow to buy things, and you
Yeah.
don't buy things on tick. We used to call it, which makes me sound really old. But you don't buy things on credit.
Yeah.
You save up and you buy them cash.
Yeah,
which is
that was
a
that
great start.
was the other thing. It was always like my mum and my mum's side of the family, especially, were all like, never get a credit card. Obviously, like, when quite a few years ago, that was their logic. Don't get a credit card. Don't do this. Don't do this. And the only one we ever had was like my dad's work one that he spent on petrol. So it was almost like alien, that whole like credit scheme to me.
Yeah, me too. It was like, if you can't buy it twice, don't buy it. That's what my dad always said. So,
And I guess the only exception would be a mortgage.
Yeah.
well, yeah.
This is entirely my world. It's this sort of northern working class mentality of pay cash or do without.
Yeah.
I object to that. I think it's just common sense.
No, Mike, you're outnumbered today. There's going to be some serious southerner bashing today. Don't worry.
I'll go and get another shandy in a minute.
So you guys basically started earning in full-time jobs, bought your first home all around the time that the pandemic hit, and it was all a bit of an interesting time. Is that right?
Yeah, it was slightly different to that. I had my full-time job at the leisure centre that I work at, and Lucy was a student, and you just did like casual weekend work at the same leisure centre, and obviously that's when we sort of got together. We had like a deposit because of the money we'd saved and all these sort of like thirds and pots that we'd developed. It was Valentine's Day 2020. We bought the house and that was when we moved in. So that was our moving in day, and all the mortgage, everything, it was all sorted on my income because Lucy's was only casual work and she was a student. A lot of mortgage providers, which I took great pleasure in reminding Lucy that they all saw her as a dependent. So yeah, so that was great. So it was all sort of in, it was joint named, everything like that, but it was my income that it was all based upon. So then COVID hit that April, and everything got locked down. So we were really lucky to move in when we did.
We got like a good interest rate locked in kind of before things start to rise as well. So we felt quite fortunate with that.
Yeah.
And then we were quite lucky. We enjoyed COVID in terms of money because I was on an unpaid placement as a student, and they basically were forced to either let me go and still let me complete my qualification or pay me to work. And because they were so short-staffed and we were in a pandemic, I ended up getting paid for most of my unpaid placement. And I was also getting furloughed from my casual work.
Yeah.
And Kieran was getting furloughed from
Yeah.
one of his jobs. And then he was able to work extra for his other job, which was in care. So we both kind of massively benefited from COVID financially.
We went from one income to close to 3 or 4, basically. And it was...
One thing that strikes me is when you got together, did you immediately start saving towards a deposit, or were you just kind of doing the sensible thing and putting some money by, maybe for a deposit later, or maybe not, or just sort of for something?
Yeah, I was always saving for a deposit
on our own. Like we were each individually saving before we got together, I suppose.
Right.
I was going to say that Kieran's clearly brought this rule of thirds and the sensible head to the operation. I mean, anybody who's met Kieran, the idea that he'd be the sensible grounding one of the couple sounds a bit alien, doesn't it?
I mean, it sounds like you started off with this sort of vision of a deposit very early on, and then got together, and then the pandemic was just a kind of boost, which then accelerated that and meant that not only did you have a property, but whereas a lot of people might be struggling with the first couple of years of the mortgage, you had the extra money coming in from the furlough and stuff, which kind of gave you a chance to start chipping away at it immediately, or putting money aside for other things?
Yeah, and because like I said, because it was all based around my income at the time, we didn't go lavish and try and scrape together to buy a really big house. We just went for a small terraced house that because the repayments were really small, the interest rate was really good, and it just meant that we could have our own place for a nice amount of money that we could go from there really.
And we weren't also able to get that extra money because I wasn't in full-time work yet, even though we knew in a few months I would be. So we were also forced to do that, which looking back was very key to us not
Best thing we ever
just
did.
buying such a bigger house and being stuck with that mortgage, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And have you been overpaying or just paying it off?
No, just paying the repayments.
Yeah, we've got quite a low rate still, so it's worth us putting the money into investments instead.
Yeah.
So what were your first investments like? How did you dip your toe into the water?
Well, I don't know how I found it, but I ended up opening a trading 212 account and put in barely a few pounds. I think the most was about £200 into a penny stock, I suppose, maybe like Apple or Tesla or something.
And then you obviously do the referral, don't you, once you're on trading 212 and everything. So Lucy referred me, and then so my first dip in was the same thing. So like you get free shares. So my free share was like Microsoft or something. And then like I was saying to you before, the whole thing was, Panasonic are going to be like, they're going to be supplying the batteries for all like the electric cars. So you try and think, I'm going to be really smart, and I'm like buy £5 with Panasonic and turn it into.
Starting to fall into the traps, weren't we?
Yeah.
But we didn't understand it enough to actually go for it and put more money into those. And we were kind of lucky that around that time I stumbled upon Rebel Finance School, and about summer, January 2021 we opened the trading 212, and then in summer we found Rebel Finance, and that was just a few months after I got my full-time job as well. So it kind of all coincided together. So that's when we kind of understood the principles of
got rid of all the penny
stocks and global investments, basically.
Yeah. So now you're just passive global index fund investors.
Yeah, very simple. We just got our ISAs, and we don't do anything else, do we?
No.
Yeah, there's all these complicated things, and we just kind of focus on the ISAs.
I mean, we talked about this before a bit, but I think that one thing that'd be different to a lot of people we interview is that because you're aiming for FIRE very early, there's not much point for you getting involved with pensions at all.
No, we kind of just see pensions as a bit of a bonus when we get there. So I've got a DB pension with the NHS. So everyone talks about how amazing they are, and I kind of just continue to pay into that. And I think if we were going more aggressively, it might be worth me opting out of that. But
because the timeline's not clear yet.
I think for now, we're sticking with the pensions and kind of getting that free money, and then just deciding what we're doing down the line, maybe changing.
I think NHS pensions are fantastic if you've got one, but with a father who was a civil servant all his life, in some cases they're a compensation for not being paid very much in the first place.
Oh, I don't know. I get the impression here that the tables have turned from Lucy being a dependent now to being the bigger earner.
I am a very much kept man, Andy. You are correct.
You're a kept man. We all aspire to that. But never pans out very well, really.
Yeah, marry up, they say.
So at the moment, you're just kind of happily chugging along, and you're putting money into the ISAs. You're paying off the mortgage on the standard repayment, and at some point in the future, when you get a bit older, you might potentially put a bit more in pensions or tweak that when you need to, but there's no rush at the moment.
Yeah, when the picture's a bit clearer, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for now, what kind of savings rate do you think you're hitting? I mean, you've talked in the past to me about living on one wage and saving the other. Is it about 50-50?
Yeah, so originally, because my income was slightly more than Kieran's, and we started just investing my income once we got it and still continuing to live off his, we're probably investing about 60% of our total income.
That's brilliant. I mean, you've got a mortgage to pay. You've got a daughter, haven't you? And
Yeah,
you know,
we didn't.
So you've not avoided life's interesting commitments of having to pay for a home and a family, but you're doing it anyway and managing such a high savings rate.
Yeah, it was the fact that it was money that we didn't have before. We lived on my wage, and when we got Lucy's, it wasn't like, oh, we've got this much, we've got more money now, let's buy this, let's get this, let's do that, let's increase his outgoings. We were just like, we'll just put it there and just continue to live the way we live.
And we found that like just as I was getting my income, so we didn't have time to inflate our lifestyles, I suppose, because we found it at just the right time.
Yeah.
Wow, you either got very lucky, or you're the first people I've met that have not made mistakes along the way. You've just got it right.
Yeah.
Not yet.
I
But
think
we're not as high as 60% now. I'd say it's probably about 50%. We've got a 2-year-old, so obviously that comes with its expenses. And we were very aggressive to start with, and I think we might have maybe compromised slightly too much, but we were just finding the balance of what makes us happy. What does this purchase really make us happy? And kind of going down that psychological route with things and just finding our feet, I suppose.
Yeah.
We still went on holidays every year and we didn't scrape things back too much, but our family saw it as being too aggressive and not spending anything and not doing anything. But I guess we've kind of eased off a little bit with our 2-year-old and realised we don't have to be as aggressive anymore. Now we've got a bit of a bigger pot.
one thing that really impressed me was you seem to have quite a clear idea of where you want to be in the future in terms of work-life balance. And I remember you, Lucy, saying that you kind of looked at the sort of corporate life and corporate world and thought, sort of, no thanks.
Yeah, like the idea when I was just starting work of doing this it basically felt like forever, like the rest of my life I'm going to be doing this and just working for the weekends. And I did enjoy my job, but it just felt like I wasn't living enough and the balance wasn't quite there. And that prescription for me was I just had to find another way, and I don't really know how I found it, but I knew that there had to be another way. And our minds have shifted so much since then.
Yeah, and it made it worse not worse, but I work shifts. So if Lucy's on, she's on just a normal 9-5, and then I'm starting work at 2 and not finishing till 10, it's like, well, that's another day gone. And
we were like, we want to spend our lives together, and currently we're not, and this can't be how it's going to be.
And I guess also having a young daughter helps to kind of focus on what the world looks like from her perspective, and having parents who are kind of around and available. And I guess it's a kind of common theme we get from people we talk to on the podcast, that you're trying to make the financial side of things fit around the lifestyle you want, not the other way around. So you're choosing the lifestyle first and saying, right, well, how can we fit work and this kind of thing around here? And, do we have to make any compromises to get the lifestyle we want? But it sounds like you're well on the way to getting there.
Yeah, I guess we're not having to push working extra shifts like we might have done before, because we know we have that security ahead of us. We know that we don't have to keep pushing so hard. We can enjoy our time with her and be there more than we would have been before. So it's just giving us those options and knowing that when she gets a bit older, we're going to be able to, I've already stepped back one day at work, but we work so many out of hours shift, it's kind of full time still anyway. But we know that those opportunities are there in the future.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's when one of the things that I've noticed is it's when, you know, she goes to nursery and things like that, and when she's going to go to school, you look at your work pattern and you think, well, I'll not be able to take her to school or drop her off this day.
Yeah.
I'll not be able to do this day. Like, I'll not be getting home till, you know, some days I won't see her when she gets home from school, you know, and
Yeah.
I'll drop her off in the morning and then I'll not see her all week after school because of my shifts. And you sort of lose that time and you don't want to. You want, you know, you want to be with your children. So that's one of the main drivers.
So what's the goal then? Is it? I mean, it's looking like you're on a track that currently you'd reach financial independence fairly quickly. I mean,
Yeah,
are you going to retire as soon as you possibly can? Is it just having that freedom in the background, or are you going to go a part way thing of, you know, coasting and you'll just work part time and make it more of a lifestyle thing?
There's a couple of situations and possibilities, isn't there?
Yeah, I think our current trajectory is about, if we kept going the same way that we're going now, I think I'd be 35 and Kieran would be 37 when we could completely stop working and just living off our investments. I don't want to stop working. I enjoy my job. I find so much purpose and fulfillment in it, and I would be lost without it. So I'm currently thinking about more of a coast. So there's a few scenarios, like maybe at 32 I could just work to cover my expenses and retire completely at 37 maybe. But I still can't see myself wanting to stop. But it just gives us flexibility.
Yeah, one of the things that comes to mind is you've already got quite a substantial sum or a pot of what I sometimes call financial utility money or FU money, which means that when you go to your boss and say, I'd like to do 4 days, you have a lot more behind you and pushback. And if your employer sort of says, well, we can't really do that because of this and this and this, you've got a bit more buffer to, you know, if you want to change roles and that kind of thing. And I guess that helps as well to kind of helps to give you more confidence to work around life.
I think we're very flexible. One of the reasons that we're very flexible with when we retire is over the last maybe 4 years, maybe a bit more, I've been struggling with like a health condition that's just progressively sort of got worse. And it got to its worst probably about 2 years ago. And to try and get to the bottom of it, they were trying to like put me on different tablets and stuff. And it meant that my epilepsy, you know, came back and I started having seizures. So there was that, there was the new medical condition. There was a lot going on. I was off work for a while and there was a period where it didn't look like I'd potentially go back to work, be able to work. But you know, if we'd have been doing this, you know, this without any of this kind of like investments and stuff like that, it would have been more of a hit, like me not being able to work. But now we've got this, it gives that flexibility. Like if things were to get really bad for me again, there's options for our finances to cover that. And, you know, we can still retire potentially early, even with me not working. So it's really helped and given us that flexibility. And also, I guess the other side of that is it's shown us what's important and what matters really, and it is time together.
Sounds like it's taken all the jeopardy out of the situation as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we've always said, isn't it? Like once, you know, like when I go to work and people are like stressed about money and stuff, that's one stress that like is just gone from life really. So you've got so much more energy and to like disperse into other aspects of your life.
Like we know we invest 50%, but if for some reason 1 month we couldn't, if something major happened, we always have that to fall back on. We never have that pressure of what are we going to do, because it's always there if we need it.
Yeah.
It sounds also like you're in a very good position where you've got the headspace to chat about this stuff and to talk about it and to have time with your daughter and to sit down together and say, look, you know, well, I could do 4 days, I could work a bit more, I could work a bit less. I think that I'm guessing that's quite unusual for your peer group and your friends, whereas a lot of people in your position who are quite young, just bought a house, got a young child, would be head down all day at work, stressed about childcare, come home, glass of wine, go to bed, get the child to bed, go to bed, watch some telly, and never have any time or the headspace to even think about sort of fire or even think about this kind of stuff. And it sounds you're quite rare in that you kind of taken a step back and said, right, whoa, hang on a minute, what do we actually want out of all this, and how can we set things up? And do you find yourself different to your peers, or your friends and family and stuff kind of all on board?
No one's on board.
No, everybody thinks we're crazy.
Yeah, they
Right.
do. And they think we're like risky, we're just throwing our money away.
Yeah.
I did actually get my dad to invest a little bit of money, but he considers taking it out every day, and I have to talk him down every day. But it's still in there and it's growing. So yeah, but he won't put any more in. But our friends, like I've got a friend, and she's in such a good position in terms of she's basically got inheritance. So she could do so much with that part at her age, but she's still won't.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
people are
Just
so
keeping
hesitant.
it in cash.
Yeah.
Oh,
And do you find that there's a sort of very slight effect on one or two of your friends might be sort of slowly getting it?
Yeah,
Occasionally?
there's someone, this is the funny bit, like Andy said earlier, if anyone actually knew my my footing and where I stand in everything, I talk to everyone about it. I try and convince everyone to do it.
You're a big preacher, aren't you?
I'm a right preacher. Don't
you
really
say
understand
that,
it.
you say that,
Don't-
but I've been there in the pub when you're there saying it's Lucy that understands all this. I know nothing about all this, and
Yeah,
and actually, you do know your stuff. We were there at Centre Parks, Mike. I don't know if you saw this.
I
There
did.
was one time you've got a sofa, and at one end of it you've got Kieran, at the other end John Buston, and they're having a debate about what was it? Is frugality nature or nurture? And Kieran's holding his own, setting the pace here. That was something to behold. When I'm used to down the pub, everyone's saying, Kieran's saying, "Yeah, I'm the dummy here. Don't try and talk to me about pensions. I don't get it."
Don't blow the facade, Andy. Don't blow it.
I think a lot of people, me included, when we met you at the Centre Parks thing, were under the impression that you made it all sound so simple. You made it all sound so straightforward, and everyone was sort of scratching their head saying, "Hang on a minute, I was worrying about pension tax and stuff, and there's this couple here who are quite young, with a house, with a child in their 20s, who make it all sound very straightforward and very simple." I think that's an amazing achievement.
Yeah, and that's what I preach to the people I work with, and obviously I work in a leisure environment, so there's people of all ages, and one person I work with, his wife was retraining to work in like HR and everything like that, so he was their primary earner. She came into a job that was 50,000-60,000 pounds a year. So I was like, right. And he was like, can you send me like all the material? Can you like explain to me how you do it? Went through all that with him. Didn't see him for a while. And then I was like, oh, what have you done with it? And they were like, oh yeah, we've just increased his lifestyle and they now buy like Lego and Pokemon cards. So it's like, it's like you think, why do people not? And then the same people say, oh well, you've got loads of money, you're doing this, and then you try and educate them, but
it sounds so simple to us, and it blows my mind that it doesn't seem simple to other people.
Yeah.
We're just like, it's so easy. Like, I don't get why you don't.
We were talking on the last podcast to someone a little bit older than you, 5 or 10 years older, and my question to him was, is it easier for younger people now because there's so much information out there, and there's lots of YouTube channels, there's this podcast, there's our website, there's lots of Facebook groups, there's lots of places that will help you get your finances sorted out, but at the same time there's lots of pressures in the other direction, trying to get you to lease a brand new car, trying to get you to invest in some nonsense. There's sort of, it's easier in one way but it's harder in another way. Is that what you found?
I think that is a fair judgment of it. If you can clear out the noise and not be taken in by all of the consumerism, I suppose, then I guess it is easier with all the resources these days. people have more opportunities if they want to find it. It's not just relying on your family and the knowledge you behold, I suppose.
And I guess going back to my previous point, I'll give Andy a chance in a minute to say something. Going back to my previous point, a lot of people, especially at your age and in your situation, have their heads down and just don't have the time at all.
Yeah.
And they're vulnerable because they're always stressed and tired, and they're vulnerable to messages telling them to do something stupid and telling them to lease a bigger car, buy a bigger house, go on holiday somewhere expensive. And because they're knackered,
they go for the instant gratification instead of looking long term. And like we always say, why do people wait till they're 50, 60? Like I was talking to a guy this morning, he's like 60. He's like, I've only really started thinking about my retirement in the last 2 years. So why wait till that age? Why not do it now? You
can't rely on just knowing that someone's going to save you in retirement and that there's something going to be there for you. And you can't do that in any aspect of life. That's what we've realised. If you want to do it, you've got to make it yourself.
I think also one thing that struck me from when I met you before was you both met in the leisure industry. So you've both got stuff going on outside of work, which helps because you've got a bit of imagination about what you could be doing when you're not working. And a lot of people I think we talk to don't really think about that until they suddenly get to like their late 40s or 50s and think, well, hang on a minute, I could actually retire and do something else. What would I do? Oh, I don't know, really.
I think there's a balance to be struck here. The more people I talk to about Coast Fire, the more I think it solves a lot of problems. Because if you do just retire, there's this big what's my purpose quandary that everyone's hit with. You guys have got a focus that you'd like to be spending your time with each other more than you are at work and with your daughter, and so there's enough goals there to use up some extra available time well. Equally, you're not saying, well, we'll just retire at 35 and then what will we do for the rest of our lives? You're saying, well, no, we'll just continue being productive and while ever it's fun. And that's got to be the happy medium for so many situations.
Yeah, definitely. I think once finding out about investing and kind of understanding all of that, my focus definitely shifted onto purpose and what fulfills us and what are we going to do when we retire. Like, you can't just think about that when you retire. You need to know that beforehand and don't just wait to live that, like incorporate that into our lives now and make that a part of who we are, I suppose.
Exactly.
So the next thing I wanted to ask, have you got any strategy for later on? I mean, when you're reaching that Coast Fire stage, will you then pay off the mortgage? Will you will you start playing with pensions and optimizing things? What are the ideas that you've got?
I think we're currently planning on paying down the mortgage with our investments once we retire, so continuing to pay that down. It doesn't really make sense for us to pay off the mortgage. We don't feel burdened by the stress of having a mortgage. We can use our investments for that.
Is that low rate you got fixed for a long time, or does it come up for renewal at some point?
It's got quite a few more years left.
Okay. 5-year fixed,
right? But that is going to have to be reviewed at.
Yeah, I mean that's a good time to look at it and say, mortgage rates have gone right up. We might pay a chunk off, or mortgage rates are still quite low. We'll leave it ticking over. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just having that flexibility.
And so the idea that you're not about to retire in your 30s, but you've got that freedom. That the fact that you're going to continue working a little bit, I suppose, that kicks down the line the decisions about pension and state pension stamps, because the questions I'd be asking myself in that situation, well, is it even worth, paying for the stamps each year to get your state pension entitlement? And I'm thinking, well, you're kind of retiring 30 or more years before you're going to reach that state pension potentially. So those are really difficult things. I don't know what I would be deciding in your shoes.
I think I would carry on as you are. I mean, I guess that your daughter's going to start school in a few years, and then that kind of gives you a kind of base, and you don't want to be moving around too much. And then you've got another, 15 or so years while your daughter finishes school, and then that keeps you kind of busy, or at least in the same place. But then after that, the world's your oyster.
Yeah, we don't plan to like move house, do we, anytime soon? So there's no plan to increase outgoings or anything.
We were thinking when we get closer to when we can retire, we may consider getting a little bit of a bigger house, more of our.
Yeah.
This was never our forever home, was it?
Yeah,
It kind of has become more of that, but I think we may move.
yeah.
Um,
But while this house serves its purpose, it doesn't need to be any bigger. It doesn't need to be anything it's not. We're just focused on growing the pot now, do all the heavy lifting now while we can, and then, like Lucy said, if we get close to retirement age and we're like, you know what, shall we get a bigger house? And then you can go, just work to
Yeah.
cover the mortgage then, or just, use the investments to cover the mortgage and just keep working. So there's so many different options that'll put us in a better state instead of racing up that property ladder now and burdening ourselves with such big repayments.
Yeah, sounds great.
And
Going
you
back
know
to-
that as backup, you've got your DB pension, Lucy, and you've got those pensions that will come along later on anyway, so that there's a surplus, so you don't have to make your existing pot last quite so well anyway, do you? They can
Yeah.
divert some of that into spending on a better home or something.
Yeah.
yeah, that'll all be a bonus when we get there.
But in the meantime, you've got plenty of flexibility, and there's no pressure to do anything particularly different to what you're doing now.
Yeah, exactly. Just keeping going and not putting too much pressure on anything, really.
Yeah.
Sounds like a brilliant setup. I admire you both.
Yeah,
Very
me
impressed.
too. Well done.
Thank you.
I only wish I'd seen the light and this stuff was around when I was in my 20s. Amazing. I mean, did I take away from that you guys you could call yourselves Coast Fire by 32, perhaps?
Yeah, even maybe 30, but then it'd be like another 9 years until we could retire. But it's still only 39, so it's not bad, is it?
That's on sort of average investing conditions.
Yeah,
anything
yeah.
happening all this. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
very
Wow.
impressive.
Very impressive. Well, thanks very much for talking to us. It's been really useful and really interesting as well. And well done on how far you've got so early. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Super. Is that us done, Mike?
I think so.
That's
No,
it for
nothing
this
more from
episode?
me.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, guys. And we look forward to seeing you at the next event.
Yeah. See you there.
See you then.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.